It's a well-accepted fact that Dylan is well-rounded, but today on Dodson's Corner, we're going to be counting down our top 10 most well-rounded UFC fighters. Current day, present day, 2025, right now, not 5 years ago, not of all time, right now, Dylan.
Yep, we're ready. We're dialed. I just had to make a last-minute change on my list because I just realized I forgot someone kind of important. But we're here and we're dialed now, so let's hop right into it. Lucas, who's your number 10?
At my number 10, this was a tough spot. This was really tough. There's a lot of guys who are decent at everything, but I think the guy who has shown levels throughout the years and has continued to stay at a high level is Figueiredo.
Ooh, Figgy's in my honorable mentions. He didn't make it. He didn't quite make it, but I think the power we see from him, his grappling.
It's for the division, right? The power is incredible. His striking, he has that touch of death, the way he winds up kind of like a cartoon character, and then also his scrambling ability is unbelievable, and his jiu-jitsu is good. Wrestling and clinch game might be a little bit on the weaker side, but I think overall, like I said, his longevity and how good he still is right now, the experience, he is one of the most complete fighters.
Yeah. All right, for my number 10, I went with a different Brazilian blonde-haired fighter, Charles Oliveira.
Okay.
I think that when we're looking at his well-roundedness, his jiu-jitsu and his grappling elite, but his striking is still really good. And
it is.
I think just every kind of facet of his game is just still really at least good. So with that elite jiu-jitsu, it's just he makes that list.
Yeah, he does have incredible striking.
Yeah, the way he outstruck Michael Chandler in that last fight, and just he just looks good on the feet, Yeah. It's not the cleanest striking, it's Brazilian striking.
It is clean. He has really clean kicks.
He gets scrambly though, but that's also part of just how he is, He's not going to just point fight his way
No.
He's not beautiful like Leon and Sean Strickland.
He's also really good ground and pound as well. Yeah. Such vicious ground and pound.
Most submissions of all time. He deserves to be there.
Yeah, he does. He was in my honorable mentions.
Ooh, Figgy over Charles?
Yeah, I think so. For the division, at least. It's interesting. People were saying that Charles Oliveira was going to outstrike Makhachev. That was where they thought he had the big advantage. And then Makhachev just dropped him.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. But he does, Oliveira has great striking, great jiu-jitsu. I just think it's the wrestling that's really lacking for him. It's really not great, the wrestling.
But I think, are we comparing his wrestling to the wrestling of the top of the lightweight division? Because the best wrestler in lightweight, pound for pound, is miles ahead of the best wrestler in flyweight.
Pantoja is great, though. By nature of being a flyweight, you literally have to be more skilled than pretty much any other division.
But his wrestling is not as dominant.
It's not as good as Makhachev's, obviously. But Makhachev's isn't even Khabib level, though. People need to stop thinking that's Khabib level, all right?
All right, man. I'm sorry.
Abusive relationship.
This video's going to be 4 hours long.
No, it's not. All right, number 9. Do you want me to go first?
You can go.
All right, Diego Lopez.
Okay.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu coaches his gym. One of the most powerful strikers in featherweight, probably third after Topuria and Josh Emmett. His clinch game, strong. Distance management is good. Thinking about now, I probably should have Charles instead of him, but it is what it is.
Those guys that are honorable mentions, you could literally switch any of them in or out, and it wouldn't really make that big of a difference. You know, Diego Lopez was my number 11. He was the last guy cut off my list when I had to add this guy onto my list, but he's still legit. That striking, that jiu-jitsu, just his explosiveness. There's really no flaws in his game. Maybe his defense is maybe his worst trait. But
he does trade quite a bit. Gets hit to take a hit.
And if you want to do that against Ilya,
yikes. Yeah.
All right, moving on to my number 9. A guy in his prime could have been number 1 on this list in terms of well-roundedness. Probably 2-ish years out of his prime, but he only lost his championship belt last year. I'm talking about Alexander Volkanovski.
Dang. Oh man, that's low.
Really?
Yeah.
I just think that right now there's a couple non-champions inside of the UFC, and there's just a few more guys that are a little bit more dominant in all facets right now. I think with Volk, he literally is maybe the perfect representation of just well-roundedness inside of the UFC. You know, the way that he could wrestle with Islam, but then strike with Holloway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his boxing is so underrated. It's actually stupid how underrated he is. Like in terms of greatest strikers of the last couple of years, he is probably top 3.
Yeah,
it's incredible how good
probably
he is.
Him, Holloway, and Poirier, maybe, or McGregor.
Yeah,
even Ilya,
or and Izzy. Like you have to think.
Yeah, Izzy and Pereira. I forgot about
a couple years ago. Izzy, yeah, I'd have to think about it more, but crazy how underrated he is as a striker. Like the boxing, especially.
Mm-hmm. I just was like, how good every year you just deteriorate 1%, and 1% is what really separates you inside of the UFC.
I think in 2024 he deteriorated a couple of percentage points. Unfortunately,
but he can also cook.
Yes, he can. He can. I honestly have faith in him. Like if he faces anyone other than Ilya, I have total faith in him to win.
But 314.
I swear, if he faces Ilya again, I'm going to shoot myself. All right, let's move on to number 8. Someone who you might have higher. I don't know. I have Tom Aspinall.
I have Tom Aspinall at 8.
Sure.
Look at us go. Look at us go. I just think that he has the skill set to be one of the most well-rounded fighters inside of the UFC.
Yeah. He just hasn't proved it yet.
He hasn't proved any of it yet.
Yeah, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling. Like if we would have seen Curtis Blades take him down and he can get out of that position or he can out-muscle him, I think that would have proved a lot because Curtis Blades is a proven wrestler. If he faces someone in the future like Almeida and he proves that, John Jones, obviously, he could prove that.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that like he literally has 1 second of back time in the octagon. Like,
yeah. And I think everyone knows Tom Aspinall striking elite. Mm-hmm. We hear about this jiu-jitsu, and when the times where we see it, really good elite. We just haven't seen it proven enough, whereas everyone else on this list has really proven how good they were.
Yeah. Well, we've seen like offensive like scrambling in jiu-jitsu. No, we haven't seen defensive because no one's been able to take it to him.
Yeah.
And he's always like, well, then take it to me, which is fair enough. No one's been able to do it. But I think 3 years down the road, we could be saying for division wise, he's number 1, like easily.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's just so much better than anyone else in his division. Mm-hmm. Just that heavyweight sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7?
Yeah, number 7. Lucky number 7.
This person, still relatively young in their career, but proven, and I believe in them, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Oh, I thought you were going with a different guy. You were going with a different up-and-comer.
Umar, do you have Umar on your list?
I have Umar higher up.
Okay, yeah. It's the fact that he is obviously trains with Khabib. He has high-level outstruck Corey Sandhagen, who's longer than him, and he has wrestling from Khabib's gym. Those two combination, you don't need anything else in your game.
No.
If you look at the champions right now, they are so wrestling heavy, and he has that ability. He's been brought up with it since he was born. He's literally like the youngest Nurmagomedov, and he's been growing up in that gym environment. They live it and breathe it. It is so good. The only reason why he's number 8, he could be number 7, sorry. He could be number 3 next year, honestly. But he just hasn't.
Or he could be that high tonight.
No. The only reason he isn't is because his only major test has been one person who's more of a striker. I think after this Merab fight, he's proven on both sides. He's proven he can beat a high-level wrestler who's dominant and a high-level striker. And if he beats O'Malley, then he's like the GOAT.
We'll see how high he gets on my list.
I am sincerely worried.
He might be number 1.
No.
All right, my number 7, another number 1 contender who's also weirdly enough fighting at UFC 311, Arman Tsarukyan. I have him lower than Umar, but with Arman, we've seen the boxing. It's great, maybe not elite. It may even be good to great, but explosiveness, his energy in the ring, his wrestling, his grappling, going out, getting that super beautiful KO over Dariush, and then going and being able to match Charles Oliveira on the ground and on the feet. I mean, that's something that very few fighters inside of the UFC can do, is match Charles Oliveira. And Charles looked really good in that fight.
He was timid on the feet. It was weird. He hardly threw anything.
Yeah, he was probably a little scared.
He was scared of the takedown, I think. Yeah. Makachev flashbacks.
Yeah. And you know what? Arman showed great wrestling defense, the way he was able to get out of those submissions. I think we all thought he was out, but he persevered. He went through it, got out, ended up getting the split decision when I believe it was. And yeah, I just have a lot of faith in the well-roundedness. You know, I think that
I just realized I do have Charles Oliveira on my list.
Oh,
sheesh.
He was all like, I can't believe I forgot Charles. Charles up there.
Charles up.
Charles up there.
Facts.
But yeah, I just have faith in Arman as one of the most well-rounded fighters. And I think that if there's anyone to beat Islam, it's Arman. And you have to be able to almost match every single skill set of Islam. And I think that Arman is close to matching every single skill set of Islam.
Yeah. Yeah, so. He is. He's like Islam Jr.
Yeah, literally.
You know what's crazy in his YouTube video? First of all, that YouTube video was insanely produced. Like the quality of it was unreal. But he was talking in an interview. His friend asked him, like, how good would you be if you actually dedicated everything to MMA? Like, this dude isn't even dedicating his whole life to it. Yeah. He's doing it like he's already extremely rich.
It's like a side gig.
It's crazy. He's super wealthy. He has a Phantom or a Ghost, I forget, like crazy supercars. His family owns a yacht, helicopters. Like, this dude does not need to fight.
I have a question. Do you think Arman's on the juice?
Dude, he is saucy. He looks he might have the best physique in the UFC right now.
I don't know how you beat those allegations.
I don't know.
He is so big and so lean.
Creatine.
Creatine monohydrate.
20 milligrams a day.
I don't know. It's like, oh, dude, he is. But also, that might screw him over. You don't want to be that big.
I don't know. Yeah, he like gassing out.
To try to keep up with Islam for 5 rounds when you're that big.
Yeah, like, I do think he's going to struggle in the later rounds.
Get a little barrel on you, buddy. Have some fat. Build up some energy in your gut.
Yeah, I think, well, he's a bit shorter, right? Like, shorter than Islam, so he is going to be naturally a bit, like, Michael Chandler-esque.
But still, he looks a little bit too big.
Yeah, Islam has the perfect build.
Or even like Ilya. Like, Ilya's ripped, but, like, he also, like, you know, he's not, like, shredded to the bone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and same with Makhachev. Like, his back muscles are popping out, but his chest isn't huge.
That's extra padding, too.
Exactly.
Those gut punches, Stipe needed more of that.
Okay.
All right. Enough rambling. On to number 6.
So this is where I have Charles Oliveira, apparently. I don't know how I didn't see him the first time when I looked over my list. But I guess I'll have to argue against myself from 10 minutes ago.
Classic liptard.
I guess I don't know if I'm going to cut that. We'll see. Charles Oliveira, I mean, you already said it, but I think I value his striking a little bit more, maybe.
Tell me about his wrestling. Tell me about the wrestling.
It's actually really good. If you didn't know, it's actually improved in 10 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. No, but I feel like an idiot right now. But
Charles just flew to Dagestan and now he's back.
No, his striking is genuinely elite. It's so good, guys. Trust me on this.
What about when he looked timid against Arman Tsarukyan?
He did. He honestly did. He did not throw hardly any strikes. And then in the Chandler fight, like, looked amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Even though he got caught in the last round, it's like you fight basically 4 perfect rounds and then got caught once. You know, I'll let it slide.
He had that fight in cruise control.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they were doing it for the fans.
Yeah. And also just like, I think if you look at, you know, Diego Lopez, someone who we just compared him with, his jiu-jitsu is such a high level. Like, his finishing ability is much better than Diego Lopez's right now. Like, he's just been around for so much longer. He knows the positions. And then his striking is... I feel like it's more flowy than Diego Lopez's. Lopez is
very much...
He has power. He'll put you out. He's stiff.
It's not smooth. It's very much out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one punches. He's not putting it together.
Yeah, the most he'll throw is like a 3-piece combo.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too with Charles is when you have the guy who's the best finisher inside of the UFC in terms of submissions, and then also the best jiu-jitsu, it does so much for your well-roundedness. So 6 is okay spot, you know, as much as you hate it on 10. Didn't even want him on the top 10. 6 is fine.
So yeah.
All right, moving on. My number 6. Let's have Dricus du Plessis.
Bro, what?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Tell me one thing he's not good at.
Everything?
No.
Well, yes.
You do not.
Striking sucks. Wrestling is...
Outstruck Sean Strickland.
I do not care about that guy.
Outstrikes Sean Strickland, is able to go and beat Adesanya and just instantly take him down and tap him out in less than 30 seconds.
He's the biggest fluke fighter of all time. You said
beat Robert Whittaker?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like this dude is actually good. And you know what? If I have Dricus du Plessis on a list.
Watch, I probably have at number 2 and I just don't realize it.
But like the thing is with Dricus is that he literally is the definition He literally is the definition of well-rounded. He's just so good at everything.
He is not, dude. That's crazy. I can't believe you glazed Dricus so much. You went from your life would be over if he beat Adesanya at 305 to putting him in this list.
I'm still taking Sean Strickland.
No, you're not. I won't let you.
I'm not. But like, if we look at Dricus,
it's like when in Interstellar when he sees a past version of himself, he's like, "Come back, Murph, come back."
But here's the thing with Dricus. He's great at everything. He's great at everything.
No, he's not.
There's really no holes.
No, there is holes. There's holes everywhere. His whole game is a hole. Yes, it is. That's crazy. That's actually hilarious. This video's cooked. All right. So number 5 now?
Yeah.
Okay, my number 5 pick. I love this guy. You know, he's my fighter of the year in 2025, Alexander Pantoja.
I got him higher.
I've always said Pantoja is going to have the biggest year in 2025. He's going to go on double champ. You know, this is his year. I've always said that. You never said that. I said that.
I haven't said that before, actually. Right.
I came up with this idea by myself. He is the most underrated fighter in the UFC by far. He's great at scrambling. He's great at wrestling. He has a lot of submission wins. Like, when you're going up against Kaya Sakura, who hasn't fought in the UFC, you should be getting a submission win. And that's exactly what he did. Like, he does exactly what he needs to do in every fight. There were a few fights in the start of his title defenses that were a little bit too close. Like, Brandon Royval was close, and the way that he won the belt was very close. So
even Steve Erceg was close.
I think looking back, it's like wasn't that close.
No.
But. You know. He knows what he needs to get done. Great cardio. Looks like he gets tired in the first round and then just fights like a dog for the rest. I don't know what it is. He just like he's a mouth breather, I think. He just breathes out of his mouth and pants over and over again. But yeah, he's a great striker too. He like in the Kaya Sakura fight, from what little we saw from him, he was outstriking Kaya Sakura. And that's Kaya Sakura's whole thing.
Yeah. All right, my number 5. This is where I have Umar. I think that it's literally
shut up.
Striking, outstrikes Sandhagen, wrestling, last name Nurmagomedov. Let's move on to number 4.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say.
Until Merab 50-45 sim.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does that.
So we're just gonna move on?
Yeah. There's nothing else to say.
Okay, fine. Don't yell at me.
There's nothing else to say.
All right, my number 4 pick, Alexander Volkanovski.
Okay.
Dude is, like I said before, the most underrated boxer in the UFC. The Makhachev fight dropped Makhachev twice. I think 2 times. And Max Holloway fights 3 times. Like, people call Max Holloway the best boxer. Volk literally boxed him the entire time in their 3rd fight. Like, what more do you want? And then, yes, he lost to Ilya, but I still think with his wrestling game, how strong he is, he's pretty small for his division. So it lets him have good cardio. Like, the weight cuts aren't as brutal for him. He's just a ball of muscle. He is so good. The way that he can get out of submissions, like we've seen in that Brian Ortega fight, his stance switching as well. That's pretty much how he was able to survive against Makhachev. Dude switched it up the entire time. Like, what more do I need to say? He was the pound for pound number 1 fighter for quite a while, and he deserved to be. He is genuinely a complete fighter.
All right, moving on to my number 4. Moving on the opposite side of the spectrum here. Got John Jones. Big black guy versus a little white guy. But
it's your search history.
Yeah. All right, back on John Jones.
Whoa. Hey, yo.
But maybe one of the best top 5 wrestlers we've ever seen inside of the UFC. I think his ground and pound is unreal. Submissions, unreal. Then we go to the feet. able to strike with a guy like Stipe in that last fight, and who, like, I mean, you're putting a lot into Stipe, but Stipe, best heavyweight of all time, you know, he's able to strike. His bag of things he can do inside of a UFC fight, huge. Just has, like, there's very few people in UFC history with a bigger bag than Jon Jones, you know?
True.
Just pulling out everything, you know, maybe some illegal elbows sneak in there, but like even that spinning back kick that we had on Stipe.
Do you see Matt Hamill said he would give Jon Jones a rematch to get the win back? Oh, it's so funny.
But I mean, yeah, Jones, GOAT, and you're not the GOAT without being extremely well-rounded, and maybe he's 5% worse, 10% worse in his prime, but that just proves how good Jon Jones was.
Yeah, he can still beat pretty much the best. Not Stipe, but like Cyril Gane.
And he could go out there and he could beat Tom Aspinall tomorrow.
Potentially, yeah. You never know.
Yeah.
Are you picking Jones for that fight?
I think I would. If you would have picked Tom, like,
yeah, we'll go opposites.
I would go opposite because I don't think it's crazy to pick Jon Jones.
No, it's not. I think it's going to be very.
Like, they already have odds out for that fight.
It's probably very close. Like, pick him. One thing I did want to talk about before we get on to our top.
No, it's literally minus 110 each.
I told you, pick 'em odds. That's
Crazy.
Wild. And it should be.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, before we get on to our top 3 picks, is fight IQ, because that's something that Jon Jones has in spades. And I think all of the top fighters, even like Volkanovski, that's a big reason why I put him so high.
They're so smart.
His fight IQ is unreal.
And Charles, why he was number 6, very smart fighter.
Are you just making fun of me?
No.
All right, let's move on. Number 3, it's Jon Jones for me. Everything you said is true. His fight IQ, his selection of shots is incredible. Like the spinning back kick, he knew he was going to land that before the fight happened. He was practicing it with Aiden Ross and in his training camps beforehand. He knew it was an opening. He studies the game. Even though he acts like nonchalant and that he doesn't care about fighting, the dude locks in for his fights. Like, no question about it. He is the most gifted fighter of all time, and even with all of his problems, and you know, I won't get into it, but all of his problems, he has still managed to easily outclass most of his competition. Right? There was a while where he was going to lots of decisions, but you know, when he was on that tear 5, 6, 7 years ago, like, dude was submitting, KOing people, head kick Daniel Cormier. Like, he was unstoppable. He just had so much confidence. And I think confidence is a big part of, you know, when you're on that. It's like what we talked about Moicano versus Dariush. Moicano, if you're picking him, it's because he's on a tear right now and he has confidence. He believes he can beat his next opponent.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I think, Ilya. Same thing with Makhachev. I think they believe that they could beat anyone. So I think that's an important attribute.
Yeah. All right, moving on to my number 3. Someone who doesn't just believe they can clear out their whole division, realistically has already cleared out their whole division. Alexandre Pantoja. He can out-wrestle every single wrestler inside of flyweight, you know, and then with the amount of elite strikers inside of flyweight, he's beaten all of them. You know, we have the guys who are more volume in Royval and Moreno, but then we also have the power guys like Kopp and Kai Kara-France. He's beaten literally everyone inside of that division.
It's true.
And he doesn't just do it the same way every time. You know, you throw him these new matchups like a Kaya Sakura. Kaya Sakura, this dangerous one-punch KO power champion, submits him in 7 minutes, you know, outstrikes him the whole fight. You know, this guy lands one knee, you know, and he just takes it.
Yeah, he ate that, dude.
He ate it. That knocks out 90% of UFC fighters.
Crazy.
But not Pantoja. There's really just another guy where he's just so underrated. You know, you mentioned it, where if this guy was doing the same things in any other division, the whole world would glaze him. You know?
He'd be number 1 pound for pound easily.
Well, you know what? There might even be another guy doing this in another division, like Islam. Like, what is the difference between Pantoja and Islam? Islam's quality of wins are higher.
Yeah,
but like,
just the division is much tougher in lightweight.
But they're doing similar stuff here, similar amount of title defenses.
Yeah, I think even though, like, I think Pantoja's done more though. Like, you know, because he's cycling
his way up to the top though. If you look at the guys he beat pre-championship, these are still the guys that are in the top 7-ish fighters inside of flyweight.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same guys. He beat all these guys on his way up and then got the belt and then beat them all again.
Exactly. He's recycling the division now. Makachev hasn't done that quite yet. Once he starts going through Charles again, and if if Armin sticks around, then it's like, all right, what's going on here? Number two. I think we're gonna have the same two, so we can probably talk about them together. Topuria.
Yeah, Topuria's at 2.
Yeah,
I think we just haven't seen Topuria at a high level to do it on the ground enough. Mm-hmm. We've obviously seen maybe the best striker inside of the whole UFC, but our number one guy is potentially the best wrestler inside of the UFC. So it's like, the teeter-totter, and then Islam has done more on the feet than Ilya's done on the ground.
I genuinely think Ilia Topuria is without question the best striker in the UFC right now.
I think that he is, without a doubt, the most gifted fighter inside of the UFC. I think in terms of talent, there's not a single fighter more talented than Ilia Topuria. It's just he's going up against the pound for pound number one, who's proved it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And Ilia is on about a year and a half, 2 years of being at this elite level.
Yeah, that's true.
He's been realistically been elite for a year now, and before that was amazing. But he was still this up and comer generational guy. Where now he's like generational. Going to be the future of the UFC, the future best fighter, future pound for pound number one. It's just he hasn't taken that spot yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like his first fight in the UFC against Yusuf Zalal, even that fight is aging good because Yusuf Zalal is actually really good now and is probably going to make it to the rankings. And other than that, it's been all finishes, submitted Bryce Mitchell, which is, he basically like proving I can submit the top prospect. And then the only other decision when he had was Josh Emmett, which he almost got 2 10s. I think he did 1 or 2 10-7 rounds.
1 10-7 round.
Yeah. And like another 10-8 round, like literally 50-43 or 50-42 to him. Like against Josh Emmett standing in the pocket with him, who is like the other power puncher in the division.
Yeah, the second strongest guy in that division.
Could KO him with one punch. So the fact that he can beat Josh Emmett, like beat the brakes off of him, and then after that, go up and beat Volkanovski, pound for pound number 2 fighter, and then Max Holloway, who's never been KO'd. The dude, like, it doesn't matter if he hasn't proven himself as much as Makhachev. He is so close already. It's insane.
Yeah, it's just that Islam hasn't done anything to lose his spot yet.
Yeah.
Ilia is so close to it. But I think we can move on to number 1 now, Islam Makhachev.
I have Pereira.
Shama.
Yeah.
But Makhachev, top 2 wrestler inside of the UFC. It's either him or Chimaev. Whoever you want there, you can take your pick. But then when we get to the striking, it's like, oh, wow. His striking is like he outstruck Dustin Poirier, guys.
Yeah. He
just outstruck Dustin Poirier. He hung up there with Volk in terms of striking. Like, it's like we need to stop just considering these. I mean, it's a changed narrative now, but even if you look back at it a year ago, pre-Dustin Poirier fight for Islam, it's like, oh, Dagestani guys, they just wrestle. Coach Khabib just tells him to wrestle. No, he'll go out there and he'll trade and he'll beat you on the feet, and then he'll go and choke you out.
Yeah, I do think the thing with Islam is he might be pretty much at the cap of his skill set. Like he is very much maintaining and then like depending on the fight, adding or removing or like, switching up a technique, just one thing, which is pretty much what you do at the top, right? Yeah. You have everything developed. I feel like Ilya still has room to grow, which is scary. I do think like Islam is pretty much at that top, which is fine. Like he's proven that his skill cap is good enough to beat pretty much everyone.
Well, and I think with Islam is we see more than just his intangible skills. We see his mental skills, like the fight IQ on that guy. He might be the smartest fighter inside of the UFC, and who knows how much of that's Khabib, but also like this kid is trained alongside Khabib his whole life. There's no way that he's strictly being just dragged along by Khabib in terms of his fight IQ.
Yeah. I do think it is actually like, I don't know how good his fight IQ would be without Khabib, though.
You never know. You never know. Because surely you're learning things as you're being coached by Khabib's dad since you were a little baby.
Yeah, of course. It's in your blood.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. I heard did you watch the podcast with Mighty Mouse and Makhachev?
No.
It was pretty interesting. Makhachev was talking about, or Mighty Mouse was saying how he got submitted twice by Makhachev, the same way that Makhachev submitted Poirier. And then Makhachev said that that's his signature move, actually. And when he had Dustin, like as soon as he got Dustin in that choke, in the Darce, Usman Nurmagomedov was already jumping the cage because he knew it would be over. Like that's how confident he was that it would be over, because that's his signature move.
That's crazy.
That's so cool.
All right, that is gonna wrap it up for us today. Go down to the comments, everyone. Leave us your biggest UFC questions that you want me and Lucas to ask.
True.
It can be who's our favorite fighter, what we think the best fight of all time is, whatever you want to know related to the UFC. Hottest UFC fighter.
Most overrated prospect.
Ooh, whatever you want to know. We are going to do a video in the future answering all your biggest questions. While you're down there, you can also let us know who you think the most well-rounded fighter inside of the whole UFC is. And we will see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.